Hey toy fans, Aaron here. Today taking a look at the retro collection release of Cara Dune. In case you're watching years in the future, she did come out in the spring of 2021 and is on that Mandalorian retro card back. So you got the Mandalorian logo up top, those worn white edges printed all around the card. That is intentional, unfortunately. Within that silver racetrack running around the edges, you got a nice image of Cara Dune, and then that large retro collection sticker towards the bottom half of the card. Through the blister, you got a nice look at the figure and the two included accessories. And then here's a look at the backside where the overall look still follows what we had for the first two waves of retro collection releases. That top half talking about how this line was inspired by the 1970s Star Wars figures. Through that red section in the middle, you got a listing of the other retro collection action figures that are available in this wave. And the bottom half of the card is your legal information. Taking a look at the figure out of the packaging, and I really like this one. As I mentioned with what they listed on the card back, the design of these figures are meant to look like those retro figures from the 70s and 80s and not carry the look of the figures that we're getting with today's vintage collection line. And while those original figures didn't always carry the best likeness to how the character looked on screen, I gotta say I feel like there's a pretty decent resemblance to Cara Dune. Not spot on, but pretty darn good. Going in for a closer look at the head sculpt here, you're going to see a little bit better the features of Cara Dune. Certainly not going to try to describe her hairstyle, but you got it longer on one side. And then on the other side, you can certainly make out the texture of that hair being braided, running from the side around to the back. Decent paint job for the eyebrows and the eyes, and a touch of pink in there for the lips. As for the chest and arms of the figure, I feel like the look of her costume is coming through quite well. I mean, it is a relatively simple costume to begin with, but I feel like it's got some pretty strong detailing. The color of the blue painting used against the black coloring I think looks fantastic. As you can see, it's pretty well placed on the top of the shoulders and the little armor piece that runs along the top of the chest. Flesh tone painting on her right arm, screen left as you look at it, looks really good. The painting for the red rectangles on her bicep seems to be pretty well placed. And then gauntlets, decent detailing to that. That blue coloring staying pretty much where it needs to be. And you get to the black gloves of the hand. Now on her left arm, screen right as you look at it, that skin tone coloring for some reason is not as solid as it is on her other arm. And what I mean by that is there's a little bit of transparency to it, and it looks like the blue coloring, so I guess it's the black that's painted on and not actually the blue, but I can see some blue bleeding through the skin tone of her arm. Your particular figure might certainly be looking better than this. Going through the rest of the chest, again, still some decent armor detailing representing what she wore. A little silver painting in the center of the chest with that blue line through there. Here's a quick look at the backside where, again, you got some armor detailing and no other real special colors mixed in. I don't know that on her back there should be other colors aside from black. Maybe, maybe not. Around the waist, little belt detailing painted in with the blue color. Kind of some rib texture, I guess, to show off some of that belt detailing. And then looks like a black buckle painted in and maybe a little black pouch or something off on the right side of her hip. Just above that belt, or, you know, maybe that's really the bottom of her shirt, you can make out her holster strap sculpted in there just around the thinnest part of her waist. Moving through the legs of the figure, costume detailing continues. That blue going on the inner parts of the thighs with the black being done on the outer part. All very much in line with how her costume should look. On her right thigh, you can see a holster sculpted in there. Pretty tiny little thing. Doesn't matter anyways as it's not functional. Knee pad sculpted on her right leg. And then some decent strap detailings around the top parts of her boots. And it looks like a little something sculpted in on the top right side of her right boot. Overall, I think this is a good looking figure. Here she is mixed in with a couple other figures for the retro collection released on the Mandalorian wave, and I think her sizing is pretty appropriate. She is coming in just a little bit shorter than the Mandalorian. As for articulation, head swivels a full 360, as do both arms at the shoulder. Legs come straight out, and they give you nothing going backwards, which is unfortunate, and I'm going to get to that right now as we go through the two accessories that she comes with, which is a blaster rifle, or a heavy blaster rifle, and a pistol. And with her holding both of these out in a manner in which you would, use them, you got to do some adjusting with the legs, kind of tweak one out a little bit to try and get her to stay in position. And even then, you can't really raise them straight out because she just wants to fall over. Enough of that, though. Getting into the heavy blaster rifle that she comes with, great detailing to it. Still relatively simple, though, in its detail of the sculpt, as you would expect for the retro collection, but still very identifiable as being her weapon. You got some texturing on the handle. You can make out the big round clip or whatever, and I'm very scientific here. The round clip, though, in the center of that rifle. And then you got some barrel detailing kind of showing you the two different barrels running out to the front. A little bit of scope detailing. And then you got that molded strap running from the back end of the blaster to about a third of the way from the front. She holds it pretty well in both hands, so no complaints there. And then onto the blaster pistol that she comes with. Once again, simple detailing to the sculpt. I think overall the sculpt probably misses the mark of how hers looked. I want to say the blaster was a little bit longer in the barrel and didn't have this exaggerated angular tip at the end of the barrel. Kind of splitting hairs there, especially since, as I mentioned, it's the retro collection and things weren't all that accurate anyways, just kind of generally in a pretty close look to what we saw on screen. You got some simple lines sculpted on the handle of the blaster, same thing running around the center of the barrel, scope detailing on top, and for the most part she kind of holds it well in either hand. You just got to find that sweet spot to kind of lock it into place, so to speak. A little twist off to the side though and it'll slide right out. So overall for me, like I said, I like this figure. I think it's a pretty strong release for the line and hits the mark as looking like a figure that was done back in the 70s and 80s. Not to get political on this or anything, but with everything that happened with obviously the actress and then the action figures getting canceled, I'm glad this one still made it through the pipeline. So that's going to wrap this one up. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this figure in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.